The holidays are about spending time with your loved ones and creating magical memories that will last a lifetime. So whether it's family and friends you haven't seen in a while, or those who you see all the time, share holiday magic this season with an ice-cold Coca-Cola. Copyright 2024, The Coca-Cola Company.
This episode is brought to you by Disney's Mufasa, The Lion King. Get tickets now for the ultimate family holiday movie experience. Reunite with the characters you know and the untold story you'd never expect. Witness Mufasa's rise from orphan to king and see how the legendary villain Scar got his name. Disney's Mufasa, The Lion King, in theaters everywhere this Friday. The kingdom awaits.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Welcome, everyone, to the G-Note Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jason Spicy G. Goldman, and I'm a Grammy-winning record producer, arranger, and musician. I've been a music professor at USC for over 22 years, and I am most known for writing and producing music for the iconic crooner Michael Bublé over the past 20 years. This is a podcast for musicians who want advice and strategies on navigating the music industry. If you're not a musician but a music fan, I promise there is plenty in here for you as well. On this pod, we talk all things music. On today's pod, we are talking about the year you stepped it up. Let's go. What is happening, folks? Today, I want to dive into helping you prepare for the year 2025 in the music industry. Now, we always talk about organization on this program, and one of the biggest organizational recommendations that I'm always making is setting your goals for the future and trying to accomplish those goals. Creating a music project like a recording of a song or album can really be one of the most terrifying and daunting tasks in music. You know, whether it be creating a small trio project or medium-sized pop group or a large jazz big band, it can all be scary in its own right unless you've done it multiple times. And, you know, we as musicians go through the same questions over and over again in our heads. And if you don't, by the way, you definitely should, right? The questions like, am I good enough to do an album or another album? What do I have to say that hasn't been said before? You know, what makes my music so special? It seems really difficult. I don't know where to start. How am I going to get money to pay for this? Right? These are all kind of the standard things that are happening and running through our minds as we are thinking about doing a new project. Now, I spoke about how to prepare for a recording in one of my earlier episodes, and I do highly recommend you check that out before heading into the studio. It has a lot of really important information, so you'll want to check that out. That's probably, I don't know, about 10, 15 episodes before this one that you're currently listening to. In this episode, though, I want to talk about how to get started and take the leap of faith. And like I said, the first question that usually runs through many musicians' head is, am I good enough? And my answer to this is that this is a tough question, but a really valid one to ask. And, you know, I recommend, number one, you ask a mentor. And if you have found a mentor who is honest and can help, that would be the person to ask and speak to. Folks, as you all know out there, I do not sugarcoat anything, right? I'm not just going to say, you know, the question is, am I good enough? And say, of course you're good enough. You may not be good enough. So I want to make sure that I'm really clear. I'm not saying you should just go ahead and drop thousands of dollars on a recording without having a solid gauge as to where you are level-wise. I think it is really vital to have a conversation with trusted people. And by the way, I'm not talking about your parents or your close friends. Yes, they may be trusted people, but they're there for support, not necessarily to give you the honest truth. So, and while some of you may say, "Oh, my parents will give me the truth," they're still on your side. You want someone to give you the honest truth and be like, "Yes, you should. No, you shouldn't. Maybe you should hold off. Maybe you should." So that being said, as I've said many times before, you don't need to be the best. Matter of fact, I did a whole podcast episode on this. You don't need to be the best. You don't even need to be great. You just need to be very good and well organized. So potentially, you could be good enough to make an album. I had a fantastic vocalist studying with me at USC not too long ago. Her name is Ella Sophie, and she's fantastic. And one of the things I like to do in private lessons, besides working on music-specific things, is going over future goals. And I remember asking her what her plan was as she only had 1 year left. And she said the typical thing, "Well, I'm not sure. I guess I'll stay in town and gig." And so I said, "Okay, well, let me take a look at your website." So I looked at the website, and it was pretty bare bones at the time and not looking super great. And I began doing what I normally do with all of my students. I started digging and asking lots of questions and making the students think. And that's what good teachers, in my mind, that's what good teachers really do. So I said to Ella, I said, "If you want to book gigs, what do you think the booking person is going to do when you tell them you want to play their venue?" And I'm sure you all are thinking about it in your head, right? They look you up on Google's and the socials. If they don't find things looking and sounding professional, why would they want to hire you? I feel a lot of musicians never think about the other side, right? It's just like they can't understand why they're only getting X amount of percentage of the door. Why shouldn't they get all of it? Well, it costs money to put an artist up. They're taking a chance. They need to be able to make some money also. It's not just about the artist. So looking at it from both sides is really, really important. So I said to Ella, I said, the website looks kind of amateurish and you have no professional music to really show or like nice looking video content. And by the way, again, she's incredible. So I said, "Have you ever done a recording or an EP?" And she said, "No." She's like, "Do you think I need to, or that I should, or that I can do that?" And I said, knowing that she was already at a high level, I said, "Absolutely." And then she said, "Well, I don't even know where to start." So together, we worked on her project. I helped her find a studio, connected her, with a studio and an engineer, the musicians, and posed questions about which music she should record. And like I said before, I like to ask questions and I like the student to work things out in their own mind as much as they can. I don't just want to give them the answer. That's not really what a great teacher does. You want them to come to some solution on their own. So long story short, by the end of the semester, she had everything booked and ready to go. After I connected her with the studio, she booked the studio. After I asked her what musicians she wanted to use, she's like, "Well, I was thinking of using these musicians, and they were some of the college musicians." And, I said to her, "Do you think those students that you're selecting are up to the highest possible standard?" And she said, "Well, I mean, I think they're really good, but, can I get better ones?" And I said, "Yes, you can get better ones." She's like, "Well, why would they play with me?" And I said, "Because, musicians want to play. They want to play, especially with great musicians, right?" And as I had said in one of my earlier episodes, a phrase my dad always says, the worst anyone can say is no. So you might as well ask the musicians that you really want. And if they say no, then you move on. But at least you'll get an answer. So I recommended some musicians for her, some that were they're the best pretty much at at the genre, and they all said yes. Even though her budget wasn't a full-blown huge budget, it was good enough for them to agree to do the recording. The EP came out 3 to 4 months after recording. I think it was roughly around there. And it sounds killer. Here's a little snippet of the EP. It's called Almost Love, and this is one of the tracks on it called The Best Thing for You.
I only want what's the best thing for you, and the best thing for you would be me. I've been convinced, after thinking it through, that the best thing for you would be me. Every day to myself I say, point the way, what will it
It's a
be?
great first project for Ella. It sounds fantastic. And now she has high-quality music with high-quality musicians, with great quality photos and videos, so that when people want to call her for gigs, they can see that and it looks professional. Let's get back to you in 2025. And as I mentioned before, one of the most important things you can do really is create goals. And we want to create balanced goals. And you want to think about short, midterm, and long-term goals. So let me give you some examples, my own goals coming into 2025. So keep in mind, I started thinking about these goals roughly mid-November. So obviously before the new year. But it sometimes takes me about a month to figure out what I want to do. But some of the long-term goals for next year, like I want to create 2 full albums, possibly 3, which is a very lofty and ambitious goal. One with my big band, which is well overdue at this point, and then one with my rock group, the Fridays. And I may be able to get the 3rd album done. It would be with the big band because it would be a Christmas album, and I'd be potentially piggybacking off of the first record. So financially, it may make more sense. So those are big, big long-term goals, right? And by the way, I'm saying long-term as like those projects probably won't occur until the end of the year or be finished until the end of the year. And an example of like some midterm goals for me would be to try to finish up writing the music for the big band album, because I have some of it, but just not all of it. I want to try and get a bit further ahead on the Fridays album. Last year was great, but I felt like the algorithm didn't reward us enough on Spotify because we didn't give it 4 to 6 weeks, to set up the music online. We were doing it like sometimes it'd be like 1 week. I would post it, and then the next week it would be out. Spotify wants you to have 4 to 6 weeks uploaded so that it can prepare for the music to happen. And then, some of my short-term goals are begin talking to label distributors for both albums, doing some research, trying to find a deal that makes sense, thinking about a release strategy for the albums and the singles, booking a short-term residency for my big band prior to the album so that we can be prepped to record the album, without too much time in the studio. Will I accomplish all these goals? Honestly, I'm not sure, but I feel they're doable. So create your goals now. I'm serious. Literally don't wait another second. Get out a piece of paper or open up a blank sheet in Microsoft Word and start writing them down, and don't wait to start accomplishing them. That's really what kills most people's project, is that they just keep delaying and putting things off until finally they just don't get anything done. So while you may be questioning whether to do a project in 2025 or not, I would say at least prepare for one. Going through the process, even if you don't end up doing it, is half the battle and can better prepare you, if and when you are really ready to do one. But let this upcoming year be the year that you are ready to do one. Folks, that is all the time we have for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod so you can stay up to date with new shows, giveaways, and more importantly, the concerts. We are sold out for our upcoming concert tomorrow night at the Vibrato Jazz Club. But if you missed us, we play there usually every 3 to 4 months, so check it out at Vibrato Jazz. You can also follow me on Instagram at SpicyGMusic, or check out my website, jasongoldmanmusic.com, to see what projects I'm currently working on and to see when I'll be performing next. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Much love. Peace.